Okay, now I'm holding the foot, and really what's going to constitute our articulations of the foot and the ankle joint. So some key bony structures that we want to be able to identify. Most superiorly we have the talus, and just inferior to the talus would be our calcaneus. Articulating with the talus here is on the medial side would be our navicular, and you can see this here. And then we also have the cuboid bone that is articulating now with the calcaneus here. We also have three bones called cuneiforms, and they're named either as the first, second, and third cuneiforms, or you'll see them also referred to as the medial, the intermediate, and the lateral cuneiforms as well. And of course we have 5 metatarsals, just like we do in the hand. With metacarpals, we have metatarsals at the foot. So this was our first metatarsal, second, third, fourth, and finally the fifth. And then we also have our phalanges. So we have on the, similar to our, analogous to the thumb, we have a proximal and a distal phalange off of the first metatarsal. And then we have a proximal, middle, and distal phalange for the rest of the four toes. Some key landmarks that we want to be able to identify is number one on the talus. I'll get you a little bit closer here. So here's our talus. We've got a head of the talus, and we'll look at this a little bit more specifically with another model. Head. We have then the neck coming through this region. Then we have the talar dome. This is our articulation with the ankle. And then we'll have some articulating facets as well here. Moving just medial and inferior, we had, as we already identified, as the navicular bone. And you have this bony prominence called your navicular tuberosity. And that's going to be a key landmark for structures such as the tibialis posterior that we'll learn about next semester. So navicular tuberosity. You also have a tuberosity of the cuboid on this lateral side as well, and a groove for the peroneus longus tendon that comes right in this direction here, right on the cuboid. We also have, off of the fifth metatarsal, tuberosity here of the fifth metatarsal. And this is a pretty important structure because this is generally a very avascular region, and you'll see a lot of stress fractures and difficult fractures to heal in this particular region here. So let's look a little bit closer at some of the other structures that we have already talked about, but let's go into a little bit more detail. So this here would be a right calcaneus, or excuse me, a left calcaneus and a left talus. And the reason I know that is because I can look and see this bony projection right here sticking out. I'll put it this way so that you can see a little bit better. We call this the sesentaculum tali. All right, it's a mouthful, I know, to try to pronounce here, but this becomes a kind of a prominence that will allow the articulation of the calcaneus and the talus. And you'll talk about this in some future studies, but look how the movement of these two bones forms kind of this very unique joint. We call that the subtalar joint. So we've already identified the head of the talus, the dome. We also have some structures off of the posterior aspect here. So this would be the medial tubercle, and this would be the lateral tubercle. of the talus. So those are off the posterior aspect. We also have some articulation on the medial side with the medial malleolus. Center that a little bit better. And then an articular facet for the lateral malleolus on the lateral side as well. Some other key landmarks that we're going to want to identify off of the calcaneus. As you can see, we've got some articulations. We have a posterior articulation for the talus. We've got a middle and an anterior articulation. Posterior, middle, and anterior articulation with the talus. And so those will line up nicely with the posterior aspect of the talus as well, where we have the posterior, middle, and anterior articulations that you can see there. It's really best just to put these back together, and you can actually see where these start to meet up. On the plantar surface of the calcaneus, we have a medial process and a lateral process, and off of this medial process you'll find the medial calcaneal tubercle, which is where your plantar fascia originates from. And then the anterior tubercle is all the way up here, and this also serves as a ligamentous insertional area as well. We can get a better look here at the sesitaculum tali, right in this region here, and that forms a nice little groove for a tendon that we're going to talk about really in the spring. Okay, so that kind of rounds up our lower extremity discussion.